Hey guys, welcome back to another Rare Game Experiences, where I try to go into rare and unique arcade and console games. And today, well, I'm kind of going back to the arcade again because it's fun to dig into old arcade games and, well, I think I found something that's so bizarre and disturbing that I really can't unsee it. And, well, if I have to suffer, well, you're all coming with me. In all seriousness though, today's game is truly bizarre in concept and yet simple in its execution. Something that would only really come from the mind of someone who lost a bet or took all of the drugs. And that's a game called Snacks and Jaxson. Why this thing was truly made, I have no idea. Who made it? I honestly don't know. I think most people just don't care to really find out more about it, or it's just lost to the annals of time. But what I can do is go into how the company was formed, kind of what happened to them, and, well, what this particular game was all about. So let's get started by going into the company for, well, their rather interesting and short-lived background, because it was a mess. Now, Snacks and Jaxson was developed and released by a company called Sente, who was founded by ex-Atari employees in 1982. The irony is that the company with them very shortly after being formed to get purchased by Nolan Bushnell. Again, seriously weird given the fact that they just left Atari only to get it bought by the founder of Atari and made part of his Party Time Theater Company in 1983. For those of you who don't know, Party Time Theater Company basically was the company he formed for Party Time Pizza, a chain of pizza/arcades that Nolan Bushnell had invested his money with after he left Atari. So yeah, roughly a year or less after forming, they basically got bought. Even part of their name had influences from Nolan Bushnell, with Sente, part of their name, meaning basically having the initiative, which was a reference to the game Go, just like Atari was. According to what I found, Bushnell bought them as an attempt to get around his non-compete agreement with Atari and enter into the market through Sente without actually having to wait till 1983 when his non-compete would expire. It also kept him from having to form a company from scratch. Atari would actually sue him anyway, and an agreement would be struck to give them exclusive rights to the games from the company for the home console use. Now, not a lot would come from this agreement, save the release of Hat Trick for the Atari 7800. Even this ownership by Bushnell really wouldn't last, as Pizza Theater Incorporated would start to actually have financial trouble and ultimately file for bankruptcy. In this shuffle, Sente would be sold to Bally for a sum of $3.9 million, who would rename the company Bally Sente. However, this didn't stop them from working on a multitude of things, one of which was the SAC-1 and SAC-2 systems. Now, the SAC system was short for Sente Arcade Computer. Basically, it was a system that allowed a cabinet to use interchangeable carts, or rather PCBs, to convert the cabinet quickly from one game to another. Think of it as an early form of SNK's AVS system for the arcade. You know, the one where you could change out cartridges in the back as opposed to having to make an entirely new cabinet or totally refit it. They also made around 30 games, one of which is the game I want to talk to you about today. Snacks and Jaxson dropped in 1984 and used a stand-up cabinet that had a trackball and one singular button. The idea was pretty simple, if a bit bizarre and slightly terrifying. The game starts out with our buddy Jaxson dressed in his clown best sitting at a dining table when out of nowhere his nose pops off and goes flying. Okay, that's a little disconcerting, but before you even have time to process this, food starts flying out from the slots on the side of the stage. And then Jackson's neck extends outward. Okay, you can officially consider me freaked out now. Before you know it, anytime you get near the flying food, Jackson's just hoovering it up, like seemingly unconcerned by the fact that his nose is just flying away from him and his neck is super stretchy. Wait, why is his nose flying back at him again? What even is this game? Levity aside, this game works as follows. The nose flies off and the player has to eat as much food as they can until the nose flies back. They then must hit the nose again with their face to bounce it out again and continue eating. If you miss the ball, rather nose, it breaks a window and you lose a life. Think of this as a game much like Jax, where you bounce a ball and pick up as many of the Jacks as you can before the ball lands. On top of this basic premise, a little goblin chef thing will dart out and leave things like peppers and soap. Yeah, you heard me right. Soap. This is where your sneeze button comes in. You know that singular button I was talking about? You have to use this to blow those items out of your way, because if you eat them, it will freeze Jaxson in place. This game has multiple times a day as well, constituting different stages. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and for some reason a midnight snack. Each one of them having different food items and increasing difficulty until the player loses. To my knowledge, this is simply just a high score challenge game and nothing else, if a truly bizarre and slightly horrifying one. However, that's enough of me talking about this game. What do you guys think of the history of Sente? Did any of you even know about them and how much of a whirlwind their company was? Did any of you know anything about this game at all? How many of you actually played this in the arcade? God, please tell me some of you played this in the arcade. I can't wait to hear these stories. Let me know about them in the comments. And while you're there, if you don't mind, please leave this video a like. And if you see more of my content, possibly some of the stuff that's on the screen now, consider following the channel. That actually helps me out a ton. Until we meet again, though, thank you once again for making it this far in the video and spending part of your day with me. And till we meet again, happy gaming.